Self-abandonment is a term used to describe the many ways in which we reject ourselves on a daily basis. And self-abandonment is oftentimes a consequence of an invalidating childhood environment, or an environment where your needs weren't recognized or met, or indeed just an environment where you felt unworthy and unlovable. And oftentimes the way in which we self-abandon are very difficult to identify, because we have internalized a paradigm about who it is that we actually are, which tells us that we are unlovable and that we are unworthy and that our needs don't matter. And this is so deeply embedded in our psyche that we're not even aware of the impact that it has on our choices and on the way that we think about ourselves, the way that we interpret the world around us, and the way that we engage in our relationships. So it takes a lot of honesty and a lot of bravery to even take a step back and have a look at your life and ask yourself, okay, are the choices that I am making on a daily basis serving me, or is there a possibility that I have a role in how unhappy I feel? And unfortunately, self-sabotage isn't benign. I mean, if you reject yourself for long enough, frequently enough, it can oftentimes manifest in mental health issues such as addiction, depression, anxiety, eating disorders. Because again, I mean, we are built for connection, we are built for love, and we are built for kindness. And if we are turning hatred and rejection in on ourselves on an ongoing basis, it goes against our human nature. So it's recognizing that it's so important that you identify some of the ways in which you might do this. And some of them are glaringly obvious. I mean, sometimes in our relationships, we continue to choose relationships that are unhealthy and that do not meet our needs. And oftentimes we do this at a subconscious level and then wonder why our relationships never seem to work out. But again, it's just repeating the patterns of our past. We do tend to recreate our childhood relationships in our adult lives. And it's just taking a step back and asking yourself, okay, is there a pattern in the choices that I'm making here, and is there something that I can be doing differently? And oftentimes just building self-awareness can have a substantial impact on your capacity to make better choices in your relationship and to be able to voice your needs and have them met. Because if you inherently believe that your needs aren't worthy, well then naturally enough nobody else is going to, because if you don't voice them, nobody's going to hear them. And it's finding that voice, it's allowing that voice to come forward, you know, as opposed to assuming that you need to carry that childhood message throughout your life that is telling you that you don't matter. Other ways where it may show up is in setting crazy high standards for ourselves, you know, always pleasing others, always doing things for the approval of others, always saying yes to others while saying no to yourself. We also tend to try to avoid dealing with our emotional experience because, again, you think that your emotions don't matter. So you find ways to numb out or suppress what it is that you're experiencing. Whether it be sadness, whether it be happiness, I don't want to know about it because that's who I actually am. And we use food, we use drugs, we use alcohol, we use porn, we use scrolling through our phones, online shopping, gossiping, and a whole host of ways just to avoid sitting with ourselves and actually caring for ourselves through our emotional experience. We tend to be highly critical as well because, again, when you are in a place of self-rejection, of course you're going to tear yourself apart at any given opportunity. So you are always finding faults and you are always trying to better those faults, and it doesn't matter once you fix one because then you're just going to find another, and it's this kind of ongoing treadmill of self-hatred and self-loathing that just never seems to end. And I mean, that exhausts anybody because the amount of energy that consumes is unbelievable. unbelievable. I mean, we have a finite amount of emotional and mental energy available to us. And if we use all of that up, judging ourselves, criticizing ourselves, and denying ourselves, then naturally enough, we're not going to have a hell of a lot else left to be creative, to find our purpose, to serve ourselves, and to serve other people. And that's ultimately what makes life fulfilling, when we find a way to be kind to ourselves, and then when we extrapolate that on to others. And that's what's been proven to make people feel more satisfied with themselves and with their life. But again, as I said, if you are trapped in this vicious cycle of self-hatred, it's going to be very difficult for you to do that. Likewise, when your needs aren't being met, even if you're not expressing them, you end up resenting others for not meeting them. And you know, it's such a paradox, because I mean, other people aren't mind readers, and yet you feel like as if they ought to be. And again, that comes from not being taught how to vocalize your needs in childhood. But if it wasn't safe for you to do so, then it goes without saying that you were never going to be able to. Likewise, you will struggle to have boundaries in your workplace, in your relationship, with your children, with your family. You will find it very hard to know who it is that you are, because you don't see your core belief, your core being, your core values as being anyways valuable, as being anyways worthy of other people's consideration or of your own consideration. And consequently, you're never going to be living in alignment with your authenticity. You know, you won't know where your true interests lie. You won't know what it is that you need to do with your life, and you just feel this kind of emptiness and a sense of being lost, a sense of always jumping through hoops in order to try and get some void inside of you filled, which unfortunately can only be filled by yourself. And it's all about doing the inner and the outer work. It's all about creating self-awareness, learning how to tolerate negative emotions, learning how to, I suppose, surf your way through life, as opposed to continuously worrying about what other people think, continuously rejecting yourself, continuously living in this place of hate and disparagement, and moving into a place of acceptance, compassion, kindness, and forgiveness. If you feel that you abandon yourself in the way that you treat yourself, if you find yourself constantly trying to suppress your feelings and trying to avoid having to vocalize your needs, if you don't even know what your needs are, if you just feel a little bit lost in your relationships, then get in touch with me on the website. It's fundamentals.ie.